So I'd like to welcome up Fadi Amoudi, Alfred Manasseh, Angad Singh, and Mike Wade for our panelists today. Great, so we can start. Alfred, if you'd like to give us a brief introduction to yourself, that would be great, please.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Alfred. I'm one of the co-founders of Shafra. Shafra, we're a company that's really with a mission to re-engineer the way companies work as a whole business aspect. So we focus on two applications. One is AI, the other is metaverses. So we really look and subdivide the business in three directions. Every business has a workflow, every business has a workforce, and every business has a workplace. So we look into all those applications and try to figure out how can we optimize and make businesses more efficient.
Okay, great. And yeah, if you could give us a brief introduction too.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Angad, the Global Innovation Director at Dynamics. What that means is we build new products, programs, and investments into our next generation of new revenue or new business models that we're going to look at. And I've been with Dynamics for 5 years. Prior to this, I was managing operations in the core region for Dynamics, which is the GCC and the Levant region. Good to be here this morning.
Great to have you. Fadi, please as well.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fadi Amoudi. I'm the founder and CEO of IQ. IQ is a log-tech enabler that specializes in the supply chain and logistics sector. We have 3 interlinked business units: IQ Fulfillment, which is our operation arm, and that's the first robotic fulfillment solution in the entire MENA region. So yes, we do have a warehouse with robots inside, but they don't walk, of course, they transport. And we enable and empower over 400 e-commerce clients within IQ Fulfillment. On the other side of it, we have IQ Robotics, which is our technology arm that powers us and everyone else that wants to transform from the regular brick and mortar into the new digital era with robotic automation solutions, software solutions, and so on. Humbly saying, within that sphere, we deployed over 850 robots on the ground floor of Dubai and currently Saudi Arabia in the past 18 months. And we have a pipeline of 1,000 plus moving forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And finally, Mike, please, if you could give us a brief introduction.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Mike Wade. So I lead the COO functions for SAP's digital supply chain line of business. I'm in my 13th year with the company, 7 years here in the UAE. Going way back, I started my career in freight forwarding. I then ran the supply chain operations for a UK-based global retailer, and the last 26 years in technology.
Okay, great. Fadi, if we could start with you, please. Could you share a little bit your vision of how technology is transforming the logistics sector, where it is moving towards?
It's going to be a big vision. So realistically, I moved to Dubai in 2018. That vision started then while bringing robots to the ground floor of Dubai. And honestly, everyone thought I was nuts, but here we are, everyone's transforming correctly right now. So transformation is a journey. The vision is about what you really want to achieve from your business side of it. So the vision from our side, we know what we want to do. We want to enable everyone to transform, whether they have the means to transform or not. You have the means to transform, we're right here by your side to give you robotic automation solutions, software solutions to enable you to scale and move forward. And that's dedicated to the supply chain and logistics sector, whether it's e-com or B2B. And the way we see it is everyone's going to be transforming within the next 5 to 10 years max. It's no longer an option or a good to have, it's a must have basically to move forward. And we're right here by your side to support you within that transformation. We do believe in not giving you more technology than you require. So realistically, we're not really here to sell you robots. We're here to empower you and enable you with solutions. Whether that solution is software, automation, robotics, or a hybrid of all of them together. Now, if you don't have any means, we're building a fulfillment solution network globally, hopefully. Let's start with regionally to start with, then an asset-light global model, whereby it's not a franchise, but it's a licensing model to go global with it, and that we can empower other people. And of course, enable cross-selling in between those fulfillment hubs in order to grow, basically, and empower everyone else.
Alfred, on to you next. Can you talk to us a little bit about Shafra and what you are trying to do and its applications in the logistics space as well?
Sure. I mean, I like the comment of Fadi. It's not anymore good to have, it's a must-have. I mean, technological innovation change is really essential. I mean, particularly when you start talking about AI, I mean, OpenAI is everywhere, Gemini is everywhere, but that's just the tip of the iceberg on what it can do in terms of applications of AI. As I said, so for us, Shafra, we're really looking into how can we shape the future of work for any type of businesses, any type of industry. To talk particularly about logistics or the business ecosystem as a whole, every business, as I said, we focus on the 3 Ws. You can call it World Wide Web, we call it like workflows, workforce, workplace. And usually, workflows are the bottlenecks of every business. I mean, processes are excellent, are amazing, but what we tend to see in traditional businesses is people tend to hide behind those processes and tend to start to look outside of their businesses for solutions. And most of the time, solutions come from within. So if we're able to automate those businesses, we have our large action models which come in, analyzes your workflows, try to automate them, try to make them more efficient. Then we have our workforce. So our workforce, our systems don't come here to change whatever system that businesses already employ. We come to create AI workforces that would employ actually the systems that you already use. We're not here to change any process, we're not here to change any system. I mean, logistics have their own systems. We're not creating a logistics system. We're creating your AI employees that will come and alleviate your human employees to become more efficient, to focus more on critical thinking tasks. In the panel just before that, they were saying most of the solutions come from your employees picking up the phone and calling the forwarder. So you want to alleviate them from the mundane administrative tasks to be able to focus on more creative tasks to find solutions, solve problems. And that's really what we do with our systems.
Great. And Mike, over to you next then. Focusing on digital transformation, and that is obviously a very talking point for logistics companies now. What role is SAP playing in that driving that digital transformation forward here in the region?
Thank you, great question. So when we think about any digital transformation, we think about any deployment of technology, it's always 3 things: people, process, and technology. Now, we are, of course, the technology layer. Our role is relatively simple. We need to talk to our customers. It was mentioned earlier on, the relationship with customers. Understand the journey that they're on, understand where they want to go, help perhaps inform that thinking through examples of other customers. And then we have the technology that will help move them forward. Now, let me just talk a bit by what we mean by digital transformation and what we mean by digital supply chain, because that's quite important. You digitally transform to enable you to move forward. I mentioned earlier on the previous panel about maybe some of the older small to medium businesses that started in the 80s and 90s, and are they actually in that position where they're moving forward? Working with customers, and I'm exec sponsor for a number of them, those that have said, we are going to digitally transform, and here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to do it, and here's why we're going to do it, makes a huge difference. Our role is to be that technology partner as they move forward as an organization. So our job is to make sure that our technology is fit for purpose. We have a dedicated engineering team that listens to customers. We build capability in those solutions. We are just 1/3 of the whole project. People, process, technology is how any organization will move forward.
And I guess, can you describe to us some of the innovations that Aramex are bringing to the table? What's new, especially in the case of autonomous vehicles and drones? Can you speak a little bit about that kind of technology?
Sure. We set up this innovation division about 2 years back. The fundamental target was to not only embrace but define the truly next generation of transformations within our space. If you take a step back and look at what really transformed our space, there was digitization that came in, there was containerization that came in, there was customization that came in, and these were truly big transformations within our space. Going forward, these were solutions to problem statements at that time while these companies were scaling or while their customers were scaling. Today, the way we see it is the way we enable our customers in the truly next generation of innovations and transformations are going to happen on how you're going to transform the customer's experience, which is your end customer or your core customer. The second is going to be how is it going to be cost effective, because that's the name of the game today. you also have to be able to bring in the kind of scale up, ease of scale up, which is required today. And obviously the key word today is also sustainability. So with these cores, we look at what products, processes, and programs can fit into this. Like you touched into it, autonomous vehicles. So autonomous vehicles are a very interesting one for us. We wanted to not embrace the ecosystem of autonomous vehicles. We wanted to truly define what would an RMX customer want when it came to autonomous vehicles. So when it comes to this space in specific, we are easily the market leaders today, even when it comes to even the bigger players around the globe. Because we worked over the last 2 years to truly define what does that mean, what are the use cases, what are the safety parameters, what are the risk mitigation required. And we designed vehicles with the suppliers to do that. Fast forward to 2 years later, we were very effective in launching our last mile bots for deliveries across UAE and KSA, which are live today. We've made some announcements about it, but this is also a boost to the ecosystem. We've enabled the suppliers to drive that technology. You get to read in the newspapers about the accidents that happen with autonomous vehicles back in the US or some in the Europe. But you've not heard about any accidents that happen in the GCC, even though these technologies have been live for over a year, delivering to customers of ours for over a year. It's because of the way we have designed the use cases. Those use cases are very specific to us. Those bots are very specific to us. We started off with roadside bots, which is, again, a customized bot created for us based on our packet sizes, based on our use cases, and we've deployed them across 2 countries so far. We progressed that towards on-road bots, and now this is where a lot of the regulators in the region or globally are quite apprehensive when it comes to on-road technology, because you've got pedestrians and you've got other factors and variables that can impact the safety parameters of that. So we looked at what could mitigate a lot of that. It's not like these products will not have accidents. It's not like these products will be cost prohibitive, because that's something we wanted to enable as well. These products cannot be cost prohibitive from day zero. They have to be profitable as a deployment, and that was one of our core concerns as well. So once we designed our on-road bot as well for deliveries, and this has been deployed in 1 country, and it's working really well. When it comes to drones, now this is where, when it comes to beyond visual line of sight and autonomous drones, it's very scary for a lot of people in the ecosystem. You get to read a lot about air taxis, you get to read a lot about last mile drones. Last mile drones is something we deployed in Oman about 2 years back, but if you look at the real use cases for us, it's going to be middle mile, which is going to be B2B movements for freight, which are higher payload aircraft. Now, there were a lot of progressive partners out there who already got an aircraft in place, but I think the regulators and us, we both realized that the real use case is going to be cargo first. Because if you put people in it first and it has an accident, that really slows down that ecosystem for the next 5 years at least. But if it's cargo, you can obviously design and build around it. So we're working with some of the biggest, names in the space right now to design what would a next generation cargo aircraft look like. Now, what that means is that these will be specific to cargo movements and express parcel movements, and this will be deployed within the next, say, 2 to 4 years, depending on the regulators and depending on the kind of costs involved. But I think we're very hopeful that we're able to pilot this in the coming year and trial it before we launch it in the next 2 years. Yeah, so this is a bit on our autonomous vehicle program. Apart from this, we've got 11 other programs running in the innovations ecosystem now within RMX, all with high impact and all with high deployment percentages. And the way we measure it is what percentage of the parcels and what percentage of the cargo is actually moving through these new products. In some cases, we've got some programs, for example, our crowdsourcing program or our out-of-home program, in which in some countries over 50 or 60% of the parcels move through that network now, which means it's a new kind of ecosystem that we've created, a new delivery vertical that we've created. But when it comes to drones, it's going to be, we're hopeful that by the end of 2030, it's about 10%. And even bots, we've got 20%, and that's a target for us.
Fadi, then back to you and IQ's involvement in driving forward robotics in the industry. What are some of the main challenges you've faced in this over the last number of years, and how has the company overcome some of these issues?
So some of the main challenges is convincing people to transform, right? So we need people to really want to transform. So number one would be in my opinion, change management. So that's very important. You have to have everyone aligned within the organization that they really want to transform. It's not about only having the budgets or the financials to transform, but it's also about having the mindset to transform. So that was one of the challenges we faced, and hopefully we did overcome that, because we promised whoever we transform that we give them an ROI of 3 years or better. Up to now, it's been 9 months, 12 months, 11 months, 18 months, and 16 months. It's not bad. Realistically, people. So whether that's external or internal within IQ, because you need a great skill set of people that really know what they're doing in terms of transformation. So we're quite young yet. We're about 110 people currently right now. We're scaling to be 240 by the end of next year. Within our operational arm, I only have 27 people in my warehouse, and that's it, nothing more. Everyone else is more techies, solution designers, consultants, engineers, solution architects, and so on and so on. And of course, a great after sales maintenance team, because you have to have that on the ground as we speak. So challenges is no longer the financial part of it, because currently right now, cost to company per FTE is close to $1,000 more or less, whether here in Saudi Arabia. And with this figure, we can give a 3-year ROI or better. Depends on the business, the nature of the business, and if they do currently have volumes, right? So it's a volume basically game in order to really transform. And at the end of the day, it's about what you want to really achieve from that transformation that you see forward. So it's people, caliber of people in terms of transformation, and of course, it's the resistant factor of transformation, right? So we're not here to sell you a 30 million euro solution. We're here to give you a $5 million solution with phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So we don't want you to go deep dive into robotics automation and say, oh my God, what did I do? As I said, this goes back to the journey of transformation, so you have to break it down. But this is the only basically challenges that we foresee. Of course, there's always competition. Competition is always healthy. So we don't mind that, we encourage that. And from our side, that plays to our advantage, because everything we built in-house. So it's our own IP. When we first started from ground vanilla zero, it was always about robotic automation. So we were never manual to start with. Yet alone, all the software solutions, all the robotic automation knowledge is all in-house IP. So realistically, cost to us is much cheaper than anyone else abroad, basically moving as a sub-agent or an agent moving forward.
Okay, great. Alfred, then back to you and speaking. Obviously, the product that Shafra is offering compared to IQ is a lot different, but the challenges still remain that same, like of convincing and being able to overcome that barrier.
I mean, resistance to change, I think, is a challenge that every industry involved in technology will really face. Change management is hard, and particularly in traditional business mindsets. Maybe another challenge that we face is the ethical considerations of people as well. So there's a worry, a common worry that you hear out there about how will AI replace the human workforce. In reality, the way we perceive it and the way we really position our technology is that AI is not going to replace you. It's people who use AI that's going to replace existing people who are not willing to change and to adopt, let's say. Now, another challenge would be more towards the future. So we focus a lot today on internal applications of our product. Even though there is a huge potential for external applications, but for those external applications, the whole mindset of any industry needs to change. Particularly, I mean, logistics, and it was discussed in the previous panel, data sharing, having really an open source system to allow machine learning to evolve and understand and improve itself and provide more insights into how can you render a whole process more efficient. I mean, it goes down to the same logic or the same process of how internet grew or came about to be in terms of technology innovation. I mean, at the beginning it was a very static world. As long as, or as soon as people started sharing information, the ecosystem grew. the value of the information grew and evolved as well. Lastly, in terms of cost, and I think we align very much with Fadi. I mean, the age of having a static solution or a cost-intensive solution hampers, in a way, technological advancement. We went about it by offering a SaaS model, so it's not cash intensive, it's not OpEx intensive, and it doesn't really affect your CapEx at the end of the day. So this really helps businesses or corporates accept change.
Mike, over to you then. Obviously, AI is a big buzzword right now, but there's also some other emerging technologies, IoT, blockchain. Where do you see their role in the sector moving forward in the coming years?
Thank you. In simple words, they're crucial. Why are they crucial? Because the improvement they can deliver to the organisation when embraced properly is significant. Let me take AI. So SAP's plan is to be the biggest business AI company globally. Now, underneath that, how do we make that happen? I can tell you now from our supply chain portfolio, we have AI embedded already in many of the solutions, including machine learning. Now, when we look at logistics, we may be thinking straight away of the physical logistics, but look at the full logistics flow from procurement, as was mentioned earlier on, inbound, receiving, and outbound. When you connect all of that together, and then you say, where can we deploy AI, and how can that drive operational efficiency? I'll give you one example. Think about very large yard operations in high volume operations where there are multiple trucks coming in and out. Today in 2024, most of that is still paperwork driven. They go to the gatehouse and there's a ream of paperwork, right? If you could deploy AI to reduce that processing time on receipt, huge operational benefit. You can turn those trucks around very, very quickly. Receiving, think about receiving. Receiving still today, a guy turns up at the receipt dump. More often than not, there's paperwork involved. You can use AI to fast track that receiving process and then the put away process. So you start to suddenly process by process see where the improvement can come. You think about IoT. IoT in the physical logistics space, I think is quite well adopted already and will continue to be well adopted. When you look at things like visibility, and we talked earlier on, and I really enjoyed some of the content in the previous panel about the network of networks. Logistics now operates in the network of networks. When you connect your core system through to your TMS, as was mentioned earlier on, and then you connect through to a network that perhaps is selecting your carriers for particular routes. There's no need anymore to do a 2-year or 3-year deal with a carrier. You can do it spot by spot. And then you want the visibility layer. Connect all of that together and you operate in the network of networks. But it comes back to AI is important, ML is important, IoT is already deployed, they'll continue to be deployed. I think Pat hit the nail on the head earlier on. Data is crucial. Right? It really is. And one of the things that was mentioned earlier on about digital transformation and how it can be successful, rigor in how you govern your data can be the difference between success and failure.
Great. And I got moving back to you then. How difficult is it in scaling up projects that you're working on? You speak about the Innovation Centre in RMX, like there's a lot happening at once. How is that implementation process?
It's very challenging. I mean, there are multiple stakeholders involved. Fortunately, in our case, we set up this division from someone internal like me who was in operations. So someone who knows what's happening on the ground and has a pulse of what's happening. So I think that's very critical that you have internal stakeholder buy-in and someone who understands what the pain points are. I think that's one of the elements that is of change management that is very important, especially in our space, which is so physical. Logistics is so physical that you have to see it to believe it. You have to, logistics is what you see every day. It's very different to a lot of the other industries out there. The second thing that really comes to mind when it comes to challenges is your stakeholders are regulators. A lot of the products or programs that we're looking at have no active regulation behind them. And even if you look at how you can liaise with the regulators on building it, it's a time-bound process. I mean, it's something that we have to actively push the regulators to develop and enable the ecosystem to do. And this is something that has been very challenging for the last 2 or 3 years. We're lucky that we're in the GCC, which has a very progressive kind of regulatory governance behind it, and they're very open towards enabling you to do pilots so that that can be a boost to the ecosystem, and the pilot then leads to regulations, draft regulations, which leads to then active regulations. And that's something that we've been a part of. But I think these two factors, which is your internal stakeholder and your regulator, has been two key challenging areas. The third is your customer. Now, a lot of the customers today want to transform, and they're looking at active transformations. A lot of it is thought driven, a lot of it is not budgeted for, a lot of it is not time bound. So how are you actively able to play a role in enabling that for them, defining and enabling that for them is another challenge. And that does mean that you would have one core customer piloting one core product for you and enabling that with one regulator. But the way we look at it, and the way I look at it personally as well, is that it needs to be a boost for the ecosystem. So you have to be able to ensure that everybody gets a win when you do something of this sort. So you cannot be tagged with one customer and one country itself. It has to be a global solution for everyone. So these are some of the challenges that we have to go through on a daily basis.
Fadi, back to you then. We spoke a little bit about the challenge of, let's say, AI and robotics replacing the workforce. What are the future skills that you look for in the workforce that you think will be relevant in the next couple of years? Like, where do people need to develop? Like, is it that, we need to be better at working these machines or working the AI, or how do you see that kind of developing?
So it's working with machines, of course. Because you always need that edge-to-edge connection, right? So you don't want it fully dark, no matter what it is. But we're in the business of upscaling basically talents and employees and the team itself. I'll just give you a small in-house example. We have or people that manage and man robot stations currently right now. If you take a look and analyze where they used to work before, some of them were cashiers, some of them were in grocery, some of them were in the warehouse, some of them were cleaning. All right, and currently right now they're all fighting between each other to man a robot station. Because that guy is cool, he's manning a robot station and working with robots. So basically it's not about taking more skills or employees, but it's about evolving the structure that you have. And that requires and entices you internally to upscale your team and talent and lead them to that sense. So where we see it is basically from an operations standpoint of view, is more skilled people that know how to work with automation, with robotics and so on. From a robotic transformation perspective, of course, it's always more solution designs, architects, etc., implementation teams, so everything on that front will evolve. We already deployed over 6 AI microservice tools within our software solutions or platforms that we enable, so that is good. I'm not going to say developers or coders because that's going to go with AI. But realistically, it's empowering people to use the tool of AI in order to really get to the next level. So realistically, within our spectrum or sphere, we're moving later on. So we we managed, let's say, to build a very powerful tech stack that is already connected front ends, back ends, carriers, RMX, for example, is integrated also. And a lot of other tools, right? Robotics, automation, anything from warehouse management, order management, transport management, warehouse execution systems, middlewares, layers, and so on. So the way we see that upscaling is also in terms of evolving the hardware side of robotics and automation, and that's our phase 2. So we're moving into developing and producing our own robots as we speak, because we currently can produce a robot in a matter of 6 months.
Alfred, back to you. So, question about the evolving role of AI in the industry. Where do you see developments being made in that in the next couple of years? Is there anything coming down the line that you think is going to be a game changer?
I mean, before going to the game changer moment, I think in all traditional businesses, essentially at the first step, to think internally, think workflows, think workplace, think workforce, empower your people, give them time to be more focused on critical thinking, creative thinking, and then use emerging technology tools. Now, this being said, what I see in the next couple of years, and to follow on to what Mike said, IoT is there, will continue on evolving. Blockchain, I believe, is one of the technologies that is really going to make a huge impact in any industry. I mean, being able to securely verify all transactions, being able to deal in any B2B sector through blockchain is really underlooked, I believe, at the moment. But give it some time and it will come.
And Mike, back over to you then. How important is it for a company to adopt a company-wide approach to digital transformation?
Wonderful question. I'm pleased you asked me that one. I think it's super, super important. Let me tell you why. So when you think about a holistic approach, company-wide, I mentioned some of the processes earlier on. It goes all the way from procurement, as was mentioned earlier on, and managing maybe some of the earlier part of the process, all the way through to the financial reconciliation. Because all of that has a cost all the way through, right? And actually, if you digitally transform in a holistic way, let's call it your logistics operations, one of the happiest people is the CFO. Because the CFO can get very, very quick reconciliation, financial reconciliation. They know what's coming down the pipe. They know what's expected. You can have self-billing systems built into that as well. And suddenly the reconciliation of the whole logistics process is much, much easier. So it can make a big, big difference when you, and we would always recommend, even if you may be looking at one part of it, take the whole holistic approach into account. If I just do this piece, what does it do to upstream? What does it do to downstream? It's a recipe for failure if you don't take all of that into account. So I think it's super, super important. And think about the stakeholders who are involved in that and who could get a win from it. Like I mentioned, we all automatically think SVP logistics is going to be the main winner. Yes, they will, and their teams will be, but the CFO could be really super happy. Suddenly they've got a much faster reconciliation process, weekly, monthly, as often as they wish, right? So, but let me just give one final story on data, how important data is, and then kind of hand over. You know, one customer I work with, this is a true story. Think about, I mentioned earlier on, network of networks. So the network of networks exists. It's there and you can drive huge efficiency. But in one case, and this is a global shipping company, they have an incorrect code for the UN code for the port of arrival on a number of major global ports. That's a bit of a challenge. If you're expecting it to be, let's say, ABC, and actually the code is ABD, right? So I mentioned rigor in a digital transformation. Put the rigor in place that says this could happen. How do we deal with it, right? Not just take the bad data in. Somehow you have to transform that data, knowing, that's wrong. Let's transform it. We can continue. So, in simple terms, our advice will always be take a holistic approach to everything you're doing digitally in logistics.
And go back to you then. Looking ahead, where do you see, which areas of operations do you see are going to gain the most from technological adoption?
Well, we defined an innovation funnel to look at what's out there. So there are three inputs to that funnel. One is your customers who have a transformation mandate and what the transformation mandate is, and then we translate that to core products and processes and programs. Our internal strategic direction for the next 5 to 10 years, plus what emerging technologies and products are there in the ecosystem, and then we classify this based on the timeline of impact. So we know what we're going to focus on for the next 1 to 3 years because of the timeline of impact. Based on that research, what we understand is going to be the highest impact for us, obviously, is going to be from an AI perspective. But AI is going to be as good as the data you give it, correct? Something as simple as addressing. Now, this is a problem which a lot of players in the market talk about. You don't have good quality addresses here. Now, good quality address could mean an incremental improvement in your last mile courier's productivity, which has a direct impact on your bottom line. And that bottom line improvement is exponential in terms of impact. So, if you were to feed your AI addressing system a bad set of addresses and bad code, it will give you garbage in and garbage out, right? So, we understand that a lot of the positive impact is going to be from data cleansing and how we're going to be able to take that data and provide incremental improvements within the operations, be it our decision sciences in the last mile, be it our network design in the middle mile, which is again going to be an extension on digital twins. we're betting big on autonomous movements. We know that some of our other markets are seeing labor struggles. We're not immune to it. I don't think we will be immune to it in the future. Today we're okay with it, and it's not a big problem statement, but I believe 5 years down the line it might be a different story. So we have to be pioneers in doing that. Blockchain, like you had mentioned, blockchain is very important. It's a critical kind of technology that is coming in, but again, that's going to be an ecosystem innovation. That's going to involve 5 or 6 players coming together and to have one public ledger to do that. And I think that would be something that a regulator or a very important element within that supply chain would put their hand up and ensure that everybody gets on board with that, like customs. There are other products and processes that we are hoping to come in. I think region-specific out-of-home solutions. So our pick-up, drop-up network, our locker network, our self-checkout network, which are launching next month. These are going to be incremental changes that come in and help us transform the next 1 to 3 years. So yeah, keep in touch with RMX News if you do. Keep in touch with us to see what we're doing in the next 1 to 3 years. But this is a theme of what is going to be out there. Especially, we're not going to talk much on the sustainability front. There's going to be a lot that happens there when it comes to electrification or hydrogenation or the electric net charging network and the kind of impact that would have on our middle and last mile. Very interesting thoughts. We have the thought paper behind it as well. So yeah, we're looking forward to registering a lot of that impact in the next 3 years.
I'd like to open the floor to any questions then, if anybody's like to ask anything.
Yeah, thank you very much. Going back on the blockchain discussion, I was part, like many people, of the surge of blockchain technology, as opposed to the currently used central ledger systems such as SAP, Oracle, right, that keep the central data in a repository, and then all the data is connected to those masters, right? So when I saw that years ago, I thought that in logistics, because of the, let's say, evolutive process-linked nature of information going from one step to the next, the blockchain will surge as a technology that will enable, let's say, a easier, encrypted, safe, let's say, information vehicle for logistics. And the question to the forum, and I think all of you guys have touched upon it a little bit, is blockchain a solution for something more like tailor-made, which requires less investment from an IT perspective? Is blockchain going to replace the central ledger systems that we have today, or will it be just complementary? And that, of course, in the view of the current state of the supply chain.
Great question, thank you. I think my guess is it will run parallel. Why do I say that? I was at a similar event to this in 2018 in the region. Blockchain was the next big thing. Where is it? Right? I mean, and freight forwarding was the standout use case for the reasons I said earlier on. So here we are, 6 years later, we're all kind of, where is it? Come on. So I think, yes, it will improve because it makes so much sense to adopt blockchain. I don't think it will replace it for some time, the central ledger you've got in your core ERP. I think it will run parallel. That's my guess. But what do I know? 10 years back, you would have said drones doing inventory counts in warehouses would not exist. And they're doing it today. So, it could come faster.
To touch on that as well, I think regulation is key. I mean, we've seen blockchain applications happen in certain government aspects. I mean, the Vera, Dubai land, and whatnot. And if you ask yourself, how come? What happened here? How did they start using it? And it's all related to getting the people together, getting the ecosystem together, and getting the government to back such a system. Because at the end of the day, the benefits of blockchain are really tremendous, but you need a trigger to start using it. And to have only one forwarder or one logistics partner to really go ahead and venture in that doesn't make sense.
I'll just quickly touch on that. I think this is my take on this, that when it came to blockchain and a lot of the investment and a lot of the intelligence on creating those systems obviously went into cryptocurrency initially, and a lot of those engineers went there. And obviously, it was very lucrative for a lot of people. Me personally as well, I paid for my wedding. But I think IBM and Mercer did something initially when they did it with customs, and I think that was a great use case. It was ahead of its time, in my opinion. I think those kind of collaborations would be required, and I think a regulator would have to put their hand up and mandate people to do it like they're doing in the UAE, like they're trying to do with the KSA as well. They would have to do it, and at that point of time, intelligence which build these products will also come in, because there'll be a boost and there'll be an investment backing it. And that's when you will see the real change. That could be 3 years, that could be even 10 years, we don't know.
Right. So this question is perhaps for the tech guys as well as Aramex and IQ as well. It's more about addressing the address or location being problematic. Okay. Now addresses were built primarily for residences. There was one door, there was a street, all of that worked fine. But now machines are entering homes, machines are entering warehouses, machines are entering malls to deliver. What 3 words did a fantastic job of already creating a lattice of where the location is, but it wasn't adopted. So as people who are seeing solutions that exist but aren't adopted, I would like to know, what is it that what 3 words got wrong? So that's one question. The second is, as the delivery ecosystems also move internally within, what are some innovations within the addressing system within a warehouse, within a building, that are standardized? You have your HTML5 as a standardized protocol. Is there something in the industry that's coming up which is standardizing internal addressing, or is it like the door system in the UK and above center point shop in Dubai? So
That's a very good question. I mean, this is a problem statement that has bugged a lot of the express innovation players for the last 30 years. I think when it came to the products that you mentioned, and Aramex invested in 3 words, for example, it's still a current investor in them. Even there's Makani here, there's Qatar Q address in Qatar. If you take your Makani number, it comes to your doorstep. It's that good. But the adoption has not happened. I don't know my Makani number. I also don't know what my 3 words address is. Now, why is that? It's because you are now transacting with an end customer who has countless apps on their phone, correct? Now, would they have 3 words? Maybe most likely not. Would they have an addressing, would they have Aramex's app? Maybe not, again, it depends. Would they have Amazon? Yes. Would they have Google? Yes. Most likely in the region, yes, they have their customers, they have their favorite retailers app on their phone. So what our thought behind this is addressing needs to be solved from a core perspective of where the entry point is, where the exit point is, what traffic is there, what's the best time to service that customer, and there's a lot of data that goes behind that decision science. So we have that sorted. Now, how do we enable the customer to get this data? So we have to work with our customers, like your retailers, favorite retailers, and work hand in hand with them to provide our addressing system or take an extension of their addressing system and merge with it. All right. So we offer both. We sell our addressing system to multiple customers, and it's white labeled. You won't know it's an Aramex addressing system. But this is for us to bring that incremental change in the last month. But similarly, like some of the more progressive e-tailers out there have very advanced addressing systems as well. We merge with that, and we get enough location sciences and we measure the success with theirs. We say that we are able to predict this address within 20 meters of 95% confidence within 20 meters, and they say, oh, we're able to do it at 50 meters. So that means that in this case, our science is better. But in case of their science is better, we use theirs. So it's about the ecosystem. Addressing cannot be owned by one person. It needs to be an ecosystem that runs it. When it comes to the technologies, I mean, there are just so many baselines out there because everybody's building their own. Everybody's building their own. I think the win is going to be, again, we should know if someone has written something, what does that translate into for us? And where does that translate? And what's the best time to service that? And what's the best preferred time to service that? And how often are we hitting that? And you measure yourself on that, that's great. That's the way we're looking at it.
Maybe if I can add on that, I mean, what we've seen the government of UAE also doing in their whole digital transformation strategy is really connecting all services they have together. I mean, we started to see, Dubai now with Smart Dubai application and UAE Pass, where eventually, you have your DIWA, you have your VIRA, you have your DOA number or FIOA number that is all linked to your profile. And at the end, we could look into tapping on to that data as long as the UAE government would publish this data, of course, to the different entities. And standardizing addresses is a big government role. And I think they're starting to do so.
So if I may add, in Saudi there's also the national address, right?
Yeah.
That works perfect, more or less. No? So realistically, it's who's selling it, how much are they selling it to couriers and the express companies and so on. But also in the UAE they're doing the same thing. So it's not about if it's there or not, it's about if it's being adopted, number one. How will it be adopted, number two, right? It's very easy. We all renew our MSIDs, right? It's just going to be a plugin within your MSID and that's it, you're done. Carriers can get integrated with it. Say that. So that's very important, is to have them agree on this, makes sense for everyone else, because everyone else also has data and has roads and has that. Unless it's going to be out free for everyone else, everyone can have it, you'd solve the entire problem itself. So that's one. Two is internally we're integrated with over 25 last mile companies in the UAE, couriers, etc., CapEx and so on. Just so that you know, each and every one of them has a different logic of naming and streets, zones, zip codes, areas, and so on. None of them are the same. So for you to integrate, or if you're looking at a customer-centric focus, your client is going to say, or fill 1, 2, 3, right? So this 1, 2, 3 for, let's say, DHL is different than those 1, 2, 3 for Aramex. So what we did internally is we mapped all of them to a centralized hub that gives you the exact same addresses whereby you map them out. But that is something else that other people need to also solve by themselves in order to really bring that.
And that's your IP, so it stays within, right? The mapping, the translation of...
Yes. Oh, we white label that too. We white label that, we white label return management solutions.
Hi, my name is Faisal. I have a question, something similar to as discussed. Now, we have been hearing about the last mile delivery and the delivery of pizza, the fancy thing happening long time, very long time. But you also mentioned, and it was in the news as well, Aramex is doing some sort of pilot projects on this. And you mentioned as well, like by 2030, maybe 20% of deliveries you expect by drone. But actually, in this Middle East or in any other region, are you seeing any real use cases of last mile delivery using drones? Is it really happening, or are we going to see that it's really happening or not?
So not only drones, but autonomous movements, right? There are two factors to it. One, what the real use case is, and is it going to be cost prohibitive for it to move under autonomous movements? Today, the labor costs are such that you have to be very careful while adopting it, and the technology is not fully ready. But what we have is, because of the volumes and the use cases that we have real use cases where autonomous movements make sense. We've deployed in the UAE and KSA certain areas where autonomous movements is actually, for us, an optimization of cost than serving it with the courier. Similarly for drones. Drones has got, I think, probably around the world, the GCC, the way it's configured today, has some of the best use cases for drone movements. Because we have urban pockets which are far apart. Now you've got large countries like Saudi Arabia, you've got large countries like UAE, Oman, South, which have urban pockets which are far and apart, and they are serviced in different intervals based on their volumes and based on the kind of density that you see across that network. Today, drones can effectively solve a lot of that in providing a great customer experience while not being cost prohibitive, but also helps you be a differentiator in the market. There was someone here who said that once upon a time, 20 years back, it took me 7 to 10 days to get deliveries. Like you said, your pizza gets to you in 15 minutes. Now the customer is unified. The kind of expectation from a customer and from a retailer is that you get it there quickly and you do it at cost. How are we going to do that with multiple trucks and multiple couriers with benefits and all of that in the future is going to be quite challenging at scale. Today, I think drones solve that use case, especially for the Middle East. And I think that is why you would see over the last 3 years, a lot of the big drone manufacturers or these air taxi manufacturers are setting up base here. Because they see that the use cases here are just much better than, say, some of the European use cases. I believe that this market is going to be primed for it. We have already deployed our bots in 2 countries. They're running today, they're a part of our operations. When we deployed them 2 years back, I still remember kids used to come in and take photos of it. They used to stop the bot, take photos. Some people try to pick up the bot, some people try to do so much with it. It's just how we have evolved beyond that. Today, in the compounds in which these are deployed, people do not take out their phone to take a picture of it. It's a normal operation. You know, there's a picture in my room. We created this storyline that there is a guy looking at the taxi which is autonomous and looks at a taxi which has a person in it, and he says, I will not sit in that, there's a human driving it, it's not safe. So that's the vision. I believe my kids, for sure, will say this. As an ecosystem, you have to enable that today, and we're going to do that.
Many logistic companies nowadays are relying on more of like an outdated legacy systems, and sometimes like integrating those innovative solutions with such systems is very complex and very hard to be achieved. And as companies that provide solutions that are more tech related, robotics and etc., how do you overcome such a challenge when you deal with a customer of that?
So I think, great question. I think your question was, you've got a legacy system and you want to deploy systems of innovation. How do you make that work? No simple answer. I think, earlier on the question was digital transformation. Should you take the whole enterprise, a holistic approach into account? I think part of it could be, if we try to do this, can we make it work effectively without doing this piece as well? And there's no straight answer. It's always use case, customer by customer. But it's a super question because you're clearly thinking about how can we innovate, and in your mind you're thinking maybe this piece is holding us back. And it goes back to that question. Digital transformation and logistics has to look at the entire enterprise, because this could be the inhibitor. You could deploy the innovation and you get 60% of the real benefit because this is holding you back. So you may need to go back to your CFO and ask for some more money.
And also it depends what you want to really transform out of it, right? So there's a lot of systems out there. We give microservice systems. So realistically, we can give you just an OMS, order management system, or just a warehouse management system, or just a warehouse execution system to integrate with the robots, or the middleware to basically integrate with, not integrate, it's already pre-integrated with all the last mile couriers and basically also platforms out there. So it depends what you want to achieve from your business scenario case. Is your infrastructure outdated in terms of legacy for what? Warehouse management system? Is it relating to more of an order management system, or is it related to the transportation system? Mainly it's not going to be a TMS because no one does that, so mainly it's either an ERP built in or a WMS built in that with a small model of OMS. So it's out there, it's not only we have, everyone has a lot of system out there. It depends what you want to really achieve or what's going to give you the biggest improvement in terms of your infrastructure and transformation, in order to really decide on it and go for it. And you can take it as a phased approach also.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Get a round of applause for our panelists.